Hi, this is Robert. Welcome to my Volvo S70 Restoration YouTube video series. If you would like to attempt to see these videos in order, go to my channel, which you click there, Robert DIY. Once you're on my channel, click the playlist link that is there. It'll take you to all my playlists. And once you see my playlist, roll your pointer over the play all button on the Volvo Restoration videos and click that, and it should play all of the videos in order. I hope the series encourages you to restore your car. Okay, it's work day 9 on this S70 T5. I got my parts in today, the balance of my parts, the bulk order that I needed to get in to finish this car. I didn't get that in until around 2 o'clock, so not a lot of time to do much with it today, but I am going to do a few things. So here's the big box of goodies. Has a PVC kit in there, the head gasket kit, the timing belt kit, and several other miscellaneous parts that I'm going to be installing on the car to hopefully have this thing running by tomorrow. Okay, I wiped up the head with a damp sponge. Some of that gasket material, most of it was softened up, and I scraped it with the credit cards, and then I moved up with a brass brush because the brass is going to be softer than the block, and then I ended up with the going over it with a couple of razor blades just to make sure it was smooth. There's a couple places where the gasket hadn't come all the way off, but I believe it's smooth enough that it won't cause any problems with any kind of leaks or anything. So if you go over it with a razor like I did, do it gently and don't dig into the block of the motor, and feel it with your finger. Make sure it feels pretty much smooth. The gasket material is got rubber coatings on it, so it'll made up with this little bit of imperfections fine. Just make sure you don't have any chunks of this gasket material left on there with the ridges and all that stuff. Make sure it's pretty much smooth. Okay, I pulled off my little styrofoam catchers off the pistons. I wiped off any moisture or anything that got down there in those piston holes. I did turn this crank and got the motor out of time, so I'm going to put that back in time, and I'm going to wipe down the walls of the pistons with an oil-soaked rag to lubricate those walls back up. There's still a little carbon and dirt on these piston heads. I never worry about that. Some people do. But some people ask about these notches in the piston head. They think that may be traces of a valve contact from a timing belt thing. That's how those piston heads come. They have those little notches in there, I guess, to help make sure the intake valves clear it, but that's how they are, no damage. I'm going to install an antenna switch on this Volvo S70. I've done the same thing for 850 sedans. A lot of times these antennas go up and down every time the radio's powered on, so the masses break and the antennas get broke going through car washes and stuff like that. This way it'll have a switch on it, and you won't have to worry about it wearing out. Okay, so I got my switch in place. As you can see, it's the same color as the all of the S60 switches. I got my radio pushed back in, and I locked my side handles in, and when I hook up my battery, I'm gonna go ahead and test the antenna and test the switch that I just installed. Okay, now I'm installing my valve stem seals, and I have the spring seats already down in the head. I wiped that down a little bit, but I'm going to vacuum the crumbs out of it. Anyway, the valves are here, and I haven't cleaned them, but you can clean them with acetone, I suggest, on the intake. And then there's the valve stem seals. I went on ahead and tossed them in some oil. And they have some little protector sleeves here that you put over the valve stems, and then you slide the seals over it. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how that works. Okay, I tilted the head up. I slid 4 valves in there. I held them in with my hand and set the head back down on the floor. Okay, now I got these 4 valves sticking up here with no stem seals on them. So I'm going to slide these little plastic sleeves over them because they have the keeper ridges in them. And that way when I slide my stem seals over there, they won't get damaged by the little keeper grooves. You could do 4 or 5 at a time. I'm doing 4 at a time. Now I'm pulling my, should have gloves on, I'm pulling my valve stem seal out of the oil. Then I slide it over that plastic and down over the valve. Now these seals have to seat down in that base. It's a metal down there, and the base of these seals are metal, so you got to push them down there so they seat down on that little part that sticks up, that's part of the head. So what I did was took the number 11 socket, deep well socket, it slides down over there, and it slides down over the rubber part of the seal, and it pushes the metal part of that seal down onto the seal seats. Now you could just drop the stem seals in here if you want, like that, and if they hold in there, you could probably just take them and drop them down in that seat, but they'll fall off if the valves are not there. So it's best to put the valves through there, put those little seal protectors in there, and then slide the seals over there and press them on with your number 11 deep well socket. Now after you get the stem seals seated down in there, you can pull these off with tweezers, or just grab them with a screwdriver in your finger like I'm doing here. Alright, now I'm ready for the next pair there. Then I'll start on the exhaust valve. But if you're going to clean these valves up, clean them up before you do this. That way those seals are holding those valves in now. They won't fall out of the head, and you can finish up the process of securing those. Okay, there's a stem seal pushed down on the post, and then there is a post that doesn't have a seal on it. So that's a post with no seal on it. That's a post with the seal on it. So you see how far it's got to be pushed down on there. Now there's the bottom of the head. As you can see, it still has carbon buildup down there. You could wipe those seats down with some acetone in a rag or a brush or whatever you need to do to get those cleaned off the way you want them. But the valves should seat in there, especially if you kept the valves in order. Okay, installing these valves and getting these keepers to stay in the thread of the valve while you take the pressure off of them from the clamp is about as much fun as watching paint dry and catching, I don't know, it just ain't no fun. Anyway, so what I've done is I got some grease, some axle grease, and I get a little bit on my little screwdriver, and I put a little bit in the thread of the keeper, and then I magnetize the tip of my little screwdriver. As you can see, is trying to pick up the keeper, and then I lower this keeper in that hole that I have in this tool. I lower it down in there, and then I smack it against there, and the grease keeps it in the groove. So it really cuts down the time it takes to get these valves installed, because these keepers will bounce around in there, and this job will take you all day. Probably taking me about, I don't know, 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes a valve this way. I got all the intake valves installed. Took me about an hour and a half to do that. So I'm going to knock it off for tonight, start off in the morning. If you feel that this information was beneficial, please like it and share it with your social media friends. You can also subscribe to my channel so that you can get notification of future videos that I post. Visit my channel. I have all types of do-it-yourself videos there. You can leave questions here and I'll try to respond to them as quick as possible. You can also visit my website at robertspinner.com. Thanks again for watching.